सभी को मेरे जय जिनेन्द्र। आज हमारे जैन टॉक्स का 162nd टॉक सेशन है और आज हमारे साथ कोलकाता से डॉक्टर नम्रता जी कोठारी जुड़े हैं, जो कि एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग विषय के ऊपर बात करने वाले हैं, जैनिज्म एंड विमेन्स क्वेश्चन। ऐसे टॉपिक के ऊपर कभी भी जैन टॉक्स के मन से कभी टॉक सेशन नहीं हुआ है, तो हमें बेहद खुशी है कि आज हमें एक नई इंसाइट मिलेगी इस टॉपिक के ऊपर। सो मैं सभी दर्शकों का स्वागत करता हूं जैन टॉक्स के इस मंच के ऊपर और डॉक्टर नम्रता कोठारी जी को भी इनवाइट करता हूं। हम आज की इस टॉक सेशन की शुरुआत करें। मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं नम्रता जी को अपना कैमरा ऑन करने के लिए। हम आज की इस टॉक सेशन की शुरुआत करें उससे पहले मैं आपको संक्षिप्त में डॉक्टर नम्रता जी कोठारी का परिचय देना चाहूंगा, इंट्रोडक्शन देना चाहूंगा। नम्रता जी कोठारी ने मास्टर्स यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ कैलकाटा से किया है और पीएचडी जैनिज्म में की है। उनका पीएचडी का विषय था एन इंक्वायरी into its emergence, background and socio-political values in it। और वे भी उन्होंने यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ कैलकाटा से किया है और पोस्ट डॉक्टरेट ऑन संथारा, जिसे हम संथारा कहते हैं, अपना जैन रिचुअल है फास्ट अनटू डेथ, उसके ऊपर उन्होंने पोस्ट डॉक्टरेट किया है और करंटली वे असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर हैं, एचओडी है डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पॉलिटिकल साइंस, साउथ कैलकाटा गर्ल्स कॉलेज के अंदर। उनके आर्टिकल्स वेरियस जनरल जर्नल्स के अंदर पब्लिश हो चुके हैं और करीबन 12 जितनी चैप्टर्स उनके डिफरेंट डिफरेंट वॉल्यूम्स के अंदर भी पब्लिश हो चुके हैं। शी हैज डिलीवर्ड लेक्चर्स, ऑल्सो participated and presented research papers in different conferences and seminars in India and abroad, जिसमें पोलैंड, फिलीपींस, ब्रूने, चाइना, बांग्लादेश, सफोल्क यूनिवर्सिटी, बोस्टन एंड अमेरिकन यूनिवर्सिटी जैसी कहीं कंट्रीज और यूनिवर्सिटी का नाम उल्लेखनीय है। She also appeared in national TV channel as political analyst on CNN, India News, Republic Bharat, RTV, Sahar TV। उनकी जो बुक्स पब्लिश हुई है उसके अंदर जैनिज्म, इमर्जेंस एंड सोशियो पॉलिटिकल वैल्यूज जो 2013 के अंदर पब्लिश हुई थी, राजा राम मोहन रॉय, द फर्स्ट अवेकन सोल ऑफ मॉडर्न इंडिया जो 2018 में पब्लिश हुई थी। हर एरियाज ऑफ इंटरेस्ट आर जैन रिलीजन एंड फिलोसॉफी, कंपैरेटिव रिलीजन, ह्यूमन राइट्स, इकोलॉजी, रिलीजन एंड पॉलिटिक्स एंड इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। सो ऐसी बेहद इंटरेस्टिंग जिनकी प्रोफाइल है, ऐसे डॉक्टर नम्रता जी कोठारी हमारे साथ आज इस मंच के ऊपर जुड़े हैं। मैं उनका स्वागत करता हूं और उन्हें इनवाइट करता हूं आज की इस टॉक सेशन को शुरू करने के लिए। नम्रता जी, जय जिनेन्द्र।
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on this such an important issue in this forum. Thank you, Jain Foundation and Neil ji, and Jai Jinendra to all of my friends. Today's topic of discussion is Jainism and women's question. In this, I will like to move around certain points. Number first, gender question with emphasis on the status of women in Jain text. Next, on the historicity of the position of women in the society. Third one will be the different practices in the society and the position of Jainism regarding these practices against women. And the fourth one is Tirthankar's views about women. And the fifth one will be the controversy between Svetambar and Digambar regarding the position of women. And the sixth one will be the female sadhvis, their role and their importance in Jain Sanghas, and the woman as a role in the political, social, legal, religious fields in Jain society, and Jainism and salvation of women. And last but not the least, woman as a symbol of mother. So as we know, the question of the status of the woman in the society has been a topic of great debate since ancient times. As we know, by status of the woman, we commonly mean the parity with the main folk. So this problem has been discussed from the point of view of religion at different times in India, with the changes in the social system from matriarchal to patriarchal society, and the position of woman folk has changed accordingly. In this context, it is interesting to inquire into the place and the position Jainism assigns to women in its teachings and preachings. Jain teachings can be understood only in the context of the problems women in India experienced since Vedic period. From the various evidences, like right from the starting to the end of the medieval period, there was a continuous change in the position of women. Like during Vedic period, we see that the matriarchal society is there and women dominated the society. And then came the Brahminical society where the sacrificial rites was performed by the women, and the men were not allowed to participate in them during the Vedic period. In the early primitive society, we know that the women, they are basically the corn producer, water carrier, and the rainmaker. But we can say they are the ruler of the house. But with the advent of this Brahminical society or Brahminism, we will see that the condition of the women started deteriorating. And from the matriarchal society, we move on to the patriarchal society. So after Brahminism, we find after a certain point of time when the sacrificial rites, himsha, and other what we can superstitious rituals, when they are at its peak, we will find that the growth of Jainism during 6th century BC. So the growth of Jainism to the 6th century BC is actually, we can say, a boon to the woman flock. As in the ancient, till the Brahminical society and more to the Mughal period, we will see that the women's, they are confined to the four walls of their house. They are not allowed to take part in the social life, in the religious life properly, even in their family life, they don't have much say. And we will see thus the position of the woman is not uh, up to the mark, in the sense they are relegated to the secondary position. So at that time also we will find that the sati pratha, then the child marriage, parda system, prostitution, slavery, female slavery, and the lack of education. In this context, we are in the position to discuss of Jainism regarding the practices against the woman. As we know that Jainism is such a religion which respects even minute to the minutest living organism. And this attitude extends even to the inanimate world. So it is natural that such a religion to cultivate an attitude towards respect towards the woman folk also. So the period when Jainism emerged as a major religion also witnesses this casteism and hatred ruling the supreme. Jainism opposed this inhuman class distinction and glorified the soul. And therefore, obviously, they emphasized on the equality between men and women. Jainism regarded women as an equal partner of men, in strong contrast to the common concept of woman as an inferior being, having just the status of maidservant. All the different sex and merely on the physical level. Thus, the woman is equally free to perform religious worship as men. Both are equally entitled for liberation by freeing themselves from the bondage of karma caused by desire and passions. So Jainism, as we know, is an emancipation-oriented religion, and its approach towards women is based on the concept of equality. So normally, we know in almost all the religions, woman is considered as an obstacle to the emancipation for the reason that she evokes passion and external desires, and thus to be kept at a safe distance. But in Jain fold, the approach is totally different. Like in Sutra Tarangi Niryukti specifically mentions that just as woman is liable to destroy the character of a man, so a man destroyed the character of a woman. So Jainism has also probed some deeper aspect of man-woman relationship. The significance of the word nari has always explained in the Sutra Tarangini Niryukti. It also emphasized how the glory of virtuous woman spread everywhere and she is like a goddess on earth. Jain Agamas even we find the mention of wife that is three as Dharma Shaya, one who helps in religion. So from the early period of Rishabhadeva, the first Tirthankar, we know the education was imparted to his young daughters. And their account where we see that his daughter was know the art of 64 vidyas, uh, like mastery in dance, music, fine arts, language, mathematics, etc. Rishabh Deva's mother, Maru Devi, also was a compassion incarnate. Like Brahmi, his daughter was intelligent and virtuous and also acquainted with 64 virtues. So she became the Sadhvi and inspired as many as 3 lakh Sadhvis to follow the path of spiritual advancement. Sundari is also next daughter of Rishabhadeva, has profound knowledge of mathematics. So we will see that the woman during the time of Rishabhdeva played a very important role in the society. Apart from it, motherhood is also a distinct aspect of woman's personality. Mahavir himself did not initiate to asceticism till his mother was alive because it hurt the feeling and tenderness of his mother. Even Tirthankar Sumitanatha, mother Mangata, was a learned, devoted lady to justice. Moreover, the Tirthankars who were married before their initiation also expressed great respect for their wives. Mahavira wife Yasodhara also appreciated the sense of renunciation of her husband and was eager to see that no harm was done to him. Even when during the Mahavira time, we will see that the Mahavira assigned a very important place to women in his Sangha. As Acharya was the highest male administrator heading the group of monks, so also the Ganani heading the group of nuns. Chandan Bala was the first woman disciple of Mahavira who headed the order of nuns and achieved liberation. Brahmi, the sister of Bharata, was also appointed as a head of the nuns by Rishabhadeva. So the 23rd and 24th Tirthankar, Parashnath, and even Mahavira, they admitted the role of sadhvis along with the sadhus and Shravakas and Shravakas. So during the time of Parashnatha, we will see that 16,000 Shravikas attended the spiritual upliftment through the initiation of Diksha. And Mahavira also include 14,000 sadhus and against 36,000 sadhvis. So these figures itself indicated the honor and the respect towards women in Jainism. So we will see that apart from this womanhood and the respect towards the woman, there is a big controversy between the two sects of Jainism, Digambas and Svetambas, for the liberation of women. Like the Digambas, they have forcefully insisted that one cannot attain moksha as a female, while Svetambas have steadfastly refused to claim exclusively male access to the liberated state of the soul. There is also a conflict between the two sects regarding 19th Tirthankar's Mallinatha, because Svetamba claimed that Mallinatha was a woman, while Digambar refused to accept it. In this connection, one must know that Digambar has placed an argument, which is very important here, that Digambas refuse to accept any possibility of a person, whether male or the female, attaining moksha without renouncing one's clothes. So nudity is the path leading to moksha, according to Digambar sect. So, and all other are the wrong paths. So Digambar mendicant Kunda Kunda also observes that the genital organs of the woman, uh, like her navel, armpits, and the area between the breast, is the breeding grounds of subtle forms of life. So, how can there be a renunciation for a woman? There is also argument placed by the Digambas against the moksha of the woman, like the excellence of knowledge and so forth. Required for moksha is not found in women and not worthy of attaining moksha because they are inferior to men. So these are the arguments placed by Digambas regarding the moksha of the woman. So the general attitude as we see towards the woman was not inconsistent in approach. In Jain literature, we come across several statements which either denounce or praise the female sex. In the voice of Manu, and Jain text states that a woman, when a child, must be kept under the control of her father, when married under her husband, and when widow under her son. So thus women are never live independently. In contradiction to above, in this connection, we will see that the thoughts of women, the in Bhavadeva Suri's thoughts, we can see that he said within quote unquotes, the wise one know how much sand there is in Gangas and how much water in the ocean. They know the dimension of great mountain, but the thoughts of a woman cannot fathom. So there are several instances which illustrate that how kings are sometimes assassinated by women with devices of their own. As regards the duty, men towards women and farmer are advised that it is always risky to educate the latter too much. In contradiction to above statement, we will find that a woman is counted among 14 jewels of Chakravarti. Like women are highly regarded and is prescribed at time of difficulty, such as caused by water, fire, robbery, famine. Women must be rescued firstly. So, while comparing the physical and the intellectual quality of men and women, it has been declared emphatic terms that women are superior of men in intellectual activity. Even we will see that the followers of Jain religion, as we know, they are divided into four categories, like sadhu, sadhvis, shravaks, and shravikas. Like sadhvis, as we know, they are the female nuns, and they follow the five great vows, which we have in Jainism. I think all of you know: ahimsa, achurya, aparigraha, brahmacharya, asatya, in a very strict manner. This shows that the complete freedom was given to the woman to enter this ascetic order. In Kalpa Sutra also, we will find that there are 3,000 female nuns. They realized the goal of emancipation under the inspiration of Neminath, the 22nd Tirthankar, and later during the days of Parasnatha, we will see that as many as 20,000 nuns, they obtained the moksha, whereas only 1,000 male monks at the same time were entitled to exalted this position. So we will see that the number of female monks gradually went on increasing during the time of Mahavira, and the sadhvis actually also they are around, according to different texts, they are around 36,000. So the as far as the preparatory stage of the monastic life was concerned, both male and female monks and nuns, they enjoyed the same privilege. But in general, we know that the nuns are placed under more rigorous discipline than the monks. They are prohibited to study the chapters of Mahaprajna and Anurapapala and Drishtivada, which deal with the magical formula as it was thought that the women are fickle-minded and they are not allowed to study the above scriptures. But this climax, which they reached in the rules, which laid out that the monks of 3 years practice can become a teacher of nun of 30 years practice. In Buddhism also, we will see that they levied such restriction on nuns as compared to monks. But in reality, this rigorous discipline imposed by Jainism and Buddhism were not followed in practice in totality. But according to the rules, nuns could not preach to the monks, but we know that the Sadhvi Rajimata delivered a steering sermon to Rathanemi, like when the latter lost self-control under the influence of tempting circumstances. Thus, we see that the religious status of a Jain woman was not inferior to the Jain man. So Malli, although a woman, rose to the status of Tirthankar. In the history also, we find a large number of women who distinguished themselves as a teachers and as a and the preachers also. So we will see that the religion and society are always very closely bound together in Indian life. So religious independence given to the Jain woman had its repercussion in social field also. The whole of the Jain philosophy, as we know, it is mainly based on the principle of ahimsa or non-injury to living beings. So it is unexpected that female infanticide might have been practiced in Jaina society at any point of time. According to Jain law, further, we know that the daughters and the sisters are entitled to maintenance, not only of family, property, and expenditure on their marriage, must be met from the same sources, and in the absence, the marriage devolves on the elder brother. In the field of education also, we will see that the women were given equal treatment with the male from the very beginning. During the period of ascendancy of Jains in India, it is the patent that the family, the church, the school, and the state served as a very powerful agent for spreading the education among the women. As we know, Rishabh Deva, first Tirthankar, he realized the utmost importance of imparting education to females and advised his two young daughters, Rami and Sundari, within quotes, only when you would adorn yourself with education, your life would be fruitful, because just as a learned man is held in high esteem by educated person, a learned lady also occupies the highest position in the female world. So see how during that time, even during the Vedic, even the pre-Vedic period, at the dates claimed to be appreciate they were date is even pre-Vedic one. So how we can say how liberal he was at that period also. So we see that that's why the education of women was held high during that time. And in fact, the cause of women education in India suffered a good deal after about 300 BC on account of a new fashion of child marriage then began to come in vogue. Still, the position of Jain females is decidedly better than that of the female as whole India, and the extent of literacy of Jain ladies stand next to Parsi Jewish Christian ladies. The Jain women not only kept up the pace of female education, but at times they made original contribution to literature. For example, like Kanti, who along with the great poet Pampa was one of the Jains that adorned the court of Hosala King Pala I in AD 1100 to 1106 in Karnataka. The women stalwarts among Tamils were also there. So marriage, as we know, is an important, very important event in women's life. And inequality of sex is the most obvious fact of the societal situation, and the weaker sex had to adjust itself with the stronger one. But the fate of woman is therefore determined by the position of marriage. Is it so? So marriage thus occupied a very important place in the consideration of the social status of woman, we know. But we know that out of the 8 forms of marriage, the most prevalent form of marriage in Jain community uh, at present are the Brahma and Prajapati. It is observed that the marriage is contracted without any exchange of money, and the bride is given her father as a gift to the bridegroom, and definitely this helped in making the status of both the parties equal. As regard the age of marriage in the Jain community, In ancient times, marriage was recommended only to the grown-up persons, was lowered in medieval periods, and in the present, adult marriage is the order of the day. So in this respect, we can say that there was that these are the very high stages through which the Hindus have also passed. But the child marriage was never favored by the Jain law givers, and it could be maintained that the brides have more or less effective voice in the selection of the partners in the life. That's why we know there is a swamber organized for the woman to choose their life partner by her own. So we will see the how advanced is the Jain thinking, thought towards the woman, that they are trying to give equal footing to the main folk. Though at that time the effect of Hinduism is no less, and there the domination of the main folk was rampant. In spite of that, our Tirthankars, right from Rishabdeva to Mahavira, they are always eager to uplift the position of the woman. So there was, we will see, there's no general deterioration in the position of women, even though polygamy was allowed with a view to counteracting illicit relationship. Complete fidelity between the husband and the wife was regarded as an ideal marriage life. And for the purpose, both of them have a vow of not keeping extra-conjugal sexual relation, in spite of the various precautions. If the married life does not become successful, then there are certain circumstances, and in certain circumstances, they will get divorced, and the wife is allowed to contract another marriage. In fact, this the practice of divorce and widow remarriage was governed by the local customs, and to the extent the position of women in respect to, various to vary depends on place to place. So the next issue, a very important issue, is the issue of widowhood. In this connection, the very first question with the widow was whether she was allowed to survive her husband or she was compelled to die. Hindu, as we know, they have adopted at that time the policy of sati pratha. But contrary to this, we like do not find any instant of self immolation of the custom of sati in Jain text. Though there is only one stray references, we will find where the widow daughter of certain king wanted to perform sati. And from the epigraphy of Karnataka, we will find there are 41 cases of sati during the period of AD 1400 to 1600. And out of these, two belong to Jains. So this shows that some Jains had by time began to feel that they ought not to lag behind Hindus in this matter. But it is clear that this feeling does not find any general acceptance in Jain community. The question whether, the next very important question, whether the women were allowed to take part in the political activities, this also depends on the question whether women could come out in public and move freely in the society. From the Jain text, we will find that the woman appeared in public without any restrictions. Many women we will see are going to shrines for worship, gathering on the occasion of various festivals, which is their friends and relationship. There's nothing like further system among the Jain women, though we will see in after the advent of Muslim rule, particularly in Rajputana families, there was a system of having ghungat in front of the elders and all. Even in some, even also today also in some Oswal families, we will see that they observe this parda to the high position is according to the families and according to the strictness with which they follow the parda system. So in ancient Jain text, we also find that the women dressed in men attire, putting an armor, equipped with with weapons, with arms, with shield and bows and arrows. So these are the example which actually shows that they fought battles. And there are example in the first quarter of the 10th century AD where Jacobi, a Jain woman, was skilled in the ability for good government and protected the Nagar Khanda, which means a small name of a place. And even the Savyaba accompanied her husband on horseback to the battlefield and fell fighting in the battle of Bagiyu. So we find this example, ample example, where we will see that the woman accompanying her husband in their battlefield. So under the Jain law, which we will see that not only men, but women also have always had their maintenance of property rights. Like a Jain person regard for the female sex does not admit of his sending out of female members of his family to work among the men. All women fall in one or two categories, like daughters and wives. Like maintenance, as we see, must always be provided for both the classes of women by the male members of the family, and it must be adequate and ample. We will also see there is a special property right of women, that is Sridhan. And accordingly, the Jain law, they following this, they have termed the Sridhan in many forms, like the things which they received from their father, their in-laws, then at the time of marriage from mother-in-law, like these all are considered as Sridhan, and the Sridhan is not liable to division except during a famine or for any religious necessities. And nobody can take it from her, not even her husband, except in times of great distress to tide over the difficulties. So uh, from this, we can say that as a daughter also, they have certain property rights or the right of inheritance also we will find in different Jain texts. Even according to Jain law, on the death of a person with or without a son, his widow is the sole owner of the property. So herein lies an remarkable difference between the Hindu law and the Jain law. As the soul of law of Hindu inheritance is the Pindadan. Therefore, the son is the most important legal entity in Hindu jurisprudence. On the other hand, we will see in the many of the Jain Tirthankars where they don't have son, and yet they attain the highest and the most supreme status. So we will say that in spite of this traditional practices of early marriage, widowhood, which is persisting in the Jain community, the granting of religious independence to women are very healthy repercussion to the social status. And this regarding this universal prejudice against the woman that who are said to be weak-minded, fickle, impure, are shared by many Jains and are found in several passages of the canons and also in the text. But there was a great controversy, as I've already mentioned, between these two sects of Jainism regarding the salvation of women, where I have highlighted also the, for example, of Mallinatha. But we will see uh, that there is some very important quotation in the Jain Agamas and the text, the reason for which they are against the liberation of the woman. I will just quoting one, like just as jar made of lac, I mean the sealing wax, when placed near the fire, soon gets melted and perished. Similarly, a monk who moves in the company of woman loses his character. So this is might one of the fear we can say among the main folk, for which they wanted to keep aside the woman folk from the path of moksha or the liberation. Otherwise, male will not get the moksha liberation, only the female will get, because the female, they have the more controlling power compared to men. So what is important here is that these prejudices are exploited by religion that advocated renunciation as the highest value. In short, we can say that the point is to know whether the Jain are admitting this statement or not. Within quotes, I will say the status of men and women is equal. In other words, accepting that there is some fundamental inequality between men and women, as such, it can be neutralized and transcended through religious practice. And so, in almost all the Jain texts, we will find that the easy way to the path of moksha or renunciation is asceticism. And Jainism, like Jainism, and so the woman is bound to represent it negatively here in this connection with the connection of sexuality. So in Jainism, we find the vows, the 5 vows, which was followed by monks and nuns, even laymen and laywomen. We will find that the former, that means monks and the nuns, they followed it as strict in the strict sense, which we called as Mahavrata, and the nuns in a little stricter sense, which is Anubrata. And therefore, the talk connected with that, the man, that the woman cannot have liberation, which is also found in some Jain text also, where in the Tattavrata Shruta, we will find the following lines also, within quotes: to avoid listening to the lewd stories about women, looking at the sexually arousing parts of a woman's body, recalling past sexual experience, stimulating of delicious food and drink, and decorating one's own body. Quote close. So this is how in the different Jain texts we will see the woman folk how they are picturized, so that they are giving arguments that due to her physical appearance they are not eligible or capable of attaining the moksha. In this context, we will see that compared to Digambas, Svetambas, they are more liberal in the sense they always supported the equality of women, and they try to prove it also. Like the books dealing with the duties of lay followers, right from the Hemachandra 12th century, the concept of 7 pills in which Jain should show wealth is adduced. Like 4 of them are monks and nuns, laywomen and laywomen, but there was no differences as such made between on the ground of any logical argument. However, we find the solution lies in refuting one-sidedness and acknowledging the manifoldness of reality, which we call anikanta, as Jain fundamentally do. Though disrespect is shown for the woman in general, but the Svetambar, at least they considered the existence of the positive role and support extension to the lay womanhood actually as a valid general concept. Now, centering, as I have already discussed, centering around the 4 Tirthankars, the debate on women and the emancipation, are also reflected in the construction of gender in mythology. So the complete emancipation of the woman from the world and their representation as a threat to the monk brahmachariness, or we can say chastity, accounts for a discrepancy between the Svetambar and the Digambar as far as the life of 24th Jayanti Thankara Mahavira is concerned. And the Digambas are uncompromising in the sense that they considered women as a threat for all. And they prevent the monks for observing the vows of chastity strictly. In this situation, it is impossible to convince Mahavira as subjected to these temptation, because we know that when Mahavira was young, he was very handsome and a son of a princely family, and he renounced the world at the age of 30, tender age of 30, and accepted the perfect aesthetic life. So in Jain biography as told by the Svetamba, it is quite clear that the woman played a very crucial role in his life, taking the instances of the past, saying that the first Jain Tirthankar Rishabha married after many negotiations only to comply with his parents, and his attitude towards woman might we can say might be symbolically highlighted as a fundamental differences regarding the importance ascribed to live man and mandicate path by 2 Jain sects. So further, we can see that apart from these all things, these the political, social, religious life of woman, the image of woman as a mother or as a protective entities having a fairly high status, and in this connection, the development of specific worship among both the sexes society see. Like this trend is seen in the respect to be shown to the parents of the Thankaras, especially to their mothers, and Gina's mother, like Bama, Trishula, our Tirthanka, Parasnatha, and Mahavira, um, their mothers are very much important as identifying models for today's Jain lay women too, as they are the symbol of carrying the tradition, and so the attainment of goal comes from the perfect fulfillment of their role as mothers. So, in many Jain narratives, also in the literature, we will find that the man's mother is seen to act as a spiritual guide to whom much respect is shown. So in ancient period, we have already discussed like how the learning was identified with womanhood, which is found, which is already evident in different texts, like Swarashwati as an embodiment of Jaina's teaching, and she protects, and also her name is often quoted at the end of fivefold homage formula to the masters. They are also a group of goddesses who are related to the Jain doctrine in particular, or with the knowledge in general, what Jains call the eight mother of teachings, or an expression that includes the basic categories found by the five samitis and the three guptis. The general religious Indian background, we will see it as also instrumental in the diversification of cults in Jainism and the growth of this goddesses cult. The influence of Sakti worship, or we can say Bhakti cult, also act as a challenge to Jainism in order to prevent the attraction towards Vaishnavism and Saivism. So, in the Middle Ages, we will see that the female deities played a very important role, but they do not endanger the Jain's top position because the latter's main role is to guide along the path of emancipation, and the female deities along with the male counterparts. In Svetamba temples of Western India, like Padmavati Devi, they has seen often as an independent image. And among the Digambas also we find the goddesses of ja, like the goddesses also, which are given a high position. And even in non-Jains also, we will find these Kula Devatas are generally worshipped by Jain families also. So apart from the role as a mother, another group familiar to most women formed by the 16th Mahasatis, namely by the name of Brahmi, Shundaris, Prabhavati, and other female nuns, which are significant in Jain minds for outstanding role in the lives and are found in the different canons of the literature in Prakrit. Even we will find the firmness and the faith in Jain Dharma, which exhibited by a pious practice, are the themes of the many stories where women play the main role, like a young lady, uh, Arma Shobha, who always had a magical garden following her because she quietly and attentively attained to a garden attached to Jain temple. So there are many examples like this. And even against this background, we will find a background of hostile attended to a like a hostile environment. Sometimes the faith has to be claimed and manifested. In this regard, the narrative pattern is that of interreligious marriage and is naturally act as a translation of historically or socially rooted ideological conflicts, which is the result of the victory of Jainism. Like one female denies the practice of abstaining from eating at night, even though she mocked by her Shaiva in-laws until she proved that she is right. Other women even convert their non-Jain husband into Jainism by various means, like Jinamata, wife of Rudradatta, and Padmalata in Harishena Bharata Kathakos, where we find this all these females are active militant of Jainism. So the place assigned to woman was the point of disagreement between early Hinduism, which protested this woman's access to religious scriptures. Because this ascetic movement in 6th to 5th century BC on the whole protected the egalitarian attitudes. And Buddha also recognized the woman's ability to attain salvation, though the entrance of woman in Bauddha Sangha was also problematic. But the available data which we will find that the this about the which prove that women are also admitted in the Buddha order, and also the Jain scriptures do not bear any sign of hesitation regarding this point. Here we will also see that during the Rishabha Deva time, Mahavira Parashnatha, large number of female ascetics, they have joined this joined the Sangha of our Tirthankaras. Now here the question arises whether likely massive induction of women and had any effect in the religious order on the nun, on this nun's rank. The data provided by Digambara sources are so little and it can be hardly of any use. But regarding the books of Svetambaras, we will, like in the Cheda Sutra, we will contain a set of rules starting set of rules which state that what is allowed or prohibited in a daily routine of monks and the nuns. Although there is a although we find there seems to be a no fundamental inequality between them, and the underlying thought is that the woman needs more control. Like for example, we will see the types of arms that nuns can accept, the place where they are allowed to stay, or they can implement, they can implement or they can use. So further, we will see that there are 18 causes which prohibited religious rites for men, and there are 20 for women due to pregnancy or rearing a small child, or two additional ones. Apart from it, we will see that the male monks, they are governed by only two persons, teachers and the preceptor. But female nuns is governed by three persons, the female superior, the preceptor, and the teacher. So traditionally, they have never reached the same position as monks, and which definitely through different canonical literature, it was already proved. So hypothetically, the literature does not give any arguments against equality between monks and nuns. So far, the teaching and the learning are concerned. But there are certain sutras, like in Uttadana Sutra, in Acharya Sutra, which reflect the text under heading Drishtivada, were forbidden to study for nuns and women in general, because they are considered as empty, arrogant, consistent, and cannot be reliable actually. Further, this should be examined as to what conditions related to social environment and inhibitions are put upon the woman played as a crucial role in women's decision to become nuns. Like remote chances of widow remarriage or the life full of hardship for women living in less developed areas of India are among the factors. And such motivation also present in earlier times, which is reflect in a dialogue between a nun and the monks. I quote, why did you leave the world? Question mark. Because of my husband death. Because he did not love me. And this is why I left the world. Unquote. So this quote reflects the state of mind who has the state of mind of a woman who has lost like her husband. So therefore, among Jains also, this question has been a subject of prolonged and significant debate. That is the question of emancipation of women, this widowhood, and etc. So we will find that in the among the laity, among the lay women and the lay women and the laymen, we will find that there was always an essential element of Jainism. and a party which explained the survival of the movement in contemporary times. As we know, the laity, it is the economic foundation of religious order, which support by the gate receiving in exchange the teaching of the law. And the lay women contribute to the existence of the community, not less than laymen do, and build a bind of religious middle class that consolidates the system and ensures its stability. Therefore, Jainism developed in good number of texts which devoted to the um, code of laity, the idea how the Stravaks and the Stravikas they actually practice the faith. Obviously, largely dependent on the Indian environment, or we can say the Hindu environment. Jain women, like especially the wives, have some general duties which they used to share with any other Indian religions. Although subjugations and domination are not inscribed in the doctrine, they are a part of our lives, and the Sita as designates the virtue of a perfect wife. So this the social construction of gender accounts for a certain distribution and complementary of religious role between men and women. As a general rule, we know the men work outside to earn money while the women remain at home. So they are fit to master all that is connected with food, worship, and rituals, and their place in the community is mostly directed towards two areas where the otherwise prevalent gender hierarchy is at least partly reversed. They ensure the what we can say the reproduction of a Jain community through marriage organization and religious teachings imparted to their children. So Jainism, we see, plays much stress on the dietary rules and the part played by the woman in obviously of the primary importance, because we see that the woman at home function as a guardian or the modifier of the tradition through various roles ascribed to her. And lay woman, first and the foremost, responsibility of her is to prepare the food acceptable to the monks and nuns. Whether in the canonical text, we will see that they're described as a donor, they use the feminine gender, or as a commentator remarks. So since he is the only who mostly offer alms and is the donor for excellence. One important thing which we must mention is the tapas of the peanuts, which is the most important expression of the female religiosity, because it implies sexual purity, like abstention from the food, and also one way through which the woman demonstrate the family honor. So some fast among Digambar specific women are like Rohanita, Pravivar, Vrata, etc. But the fasting woman always arose, great respect among their relatives and are surrounded by great care, and breaking of the fast involves celebration of the feast, which contributes to the social cohesion. Even the position of the woman is also associated with the question of worship, because except for the followers of non-idolatory sects like Sthanakvashi, all the Jains must go to temples, and even those who are the Svetambas, Therapanthis, they are not believer of ideal. So the observation shows that the women do it most regularly and more at a leisure while performing their rituals at home. And the puja is always organized, the social activity where women gather together in chanting, worshipping, etc., as a most important means of expressing their faith. Through this medium, actually, some fundament through these way, actually, the lay women use their knowledge to explore theological questions. Their own idioms make it clear that the women have a voice in the development of contemporary and future Jainism. However, there are restrictions regarding the menstruational periods, which are very important and are often emphasized in the talks of Jain women and nuns. And the belief is that the woman will not able to communicate spiritual energy, will have opposite consequence than those desired. and thus advised to maintain aloof from the community, not to read sacred books, etc. So they embody the conflict between the fundamental egalitarian religious doctrine of Jainism and the pan-Indian belief about woman. However, there are two restrictions to this bipolarization. One is the law of karma, like if the birth depends on the one's own conduct, then womanhood will never be a permanent feature. And the other, even if the theology of equivalence advocate theoretically the equality of men and women, in fact, it also shares the postulates of theology of subordination regarding regarding inferior position of a woman. Thus, we can see that Jainism is centered at organizational level. The interesting fact is that whatever sect they belong to, Jain lay women exhibit the same faith and determination in its translation into acts in their daily lives. On the whole, the history as well as the present times show that the construction of genders is a complicated process which constantly fluctuates between the two extremes. So, what is exceptional about Jain debates on spiritual liberation of women is not the attitude that they display towards female sex, but rather the systematic focus on the question of gender, the extension of general debate, and to some degree, their rooting in specifically in biophysical nature of the human female candidate. So this is to say that in other textual tradition do not exhibit and indeed encourage a virtual pathological revolution for those organs and processes that are unique to the female. But nowhere else we will find this female reproductive physiology cited itself as a principal reason for the alleged incapacity of women to achieve spiritual liberation. So as the argument placed by the Digambar counterparts. And much of this argumentation actually bears on the issues such as that recorded in the several texts translated here dealing with the question of whether the word woman within quotes in the scriptures asserts the possibility of moksha. For woman really means that a man with the sensual feelings of a woman, and whether the true sect, the agreement that woman, no matter how wicked, can fall on the lower fall actually no lower than the sixth of the Jainism seven hills logically implies that she can by the same token not rise to the highest spiritual state, may be baffling to the reader unfamiliar with the canons of the traditional Indian debate. So the argument of Digambar side derived from the postulates that echo the generally misogynist and patriarchal attitude of a society as a whole. Like it argued that the women are not only physically weaker than the men and hence unable to endure the harsh asceticism regarding as necessary for liberation, but are intellectually, ethically, and morally inferior also. So this is the argument of the Digambar side, but here it is worthy to mention in this connection in connection with these disputes that Swetambar, although they steadfastly argue for the possibility of women entering the mendicant life and attaining nirvana, really categorically refute thus this misogynist claims of Digambars per se. Although they tend to soften their claims, for example, pointing out the famous Brahmins from literatures and the scriptures, and which shows their moral courage, etc. But we will see that they seem actually gradually willing to accept the negative characterization and contending themselves merely by asserting that these do not preclude the possibility of moksha for all women. So the type of argumentation is for those desirous of understanding the nature and the development of attitudes towards gender in traditional culture and society. And it is through their detailed and elaborate discussion of the biological and psychological aspect of female gender and sexual orientation that the Jain text actually that stand out as a unique and of particular importance. However, beyond this elaborate and learned disputation, as we have already as I have already mentioned, reading of Jain text translated by Jain shows clearly that Digambar principle argument against the liberation of women rests on their perception of profound anxiety about the anatomy of a human female in general and her reproductive system in particular. Like we will see that the Megha Vijaya, representing the Digambar positions, he remarks that within quotes, she has an impure body as is evident from the flow of menstrual blood each month, quote close. So this is how this sort of negative focus or taboo menstruation has been widely observed in many traditional cultures, both in India and also elsewhere. And the Jain text, however, takes the anxiety and phobic representation of female body and its natural processes to heights almost unknown elsewhere. To here we can say that the Digambar attitudes actually due to the practice of not practicing the process of nudity by the woman folk. That is the reason also they said that the woman can't attain the nirvana because they can't. It's not possible for the for following the nudity by the woman folk. So these are the arguments which was placed by the Gambar sects. But we know that the Swetambaras, for whom the donning of white robes is both a symbol and also the requirement of the monastic life, cannot accept this position. And one is often moved by the readings, these debates, by the feeling that despite the very real animus towards the woman expressed by both the parties of the debate, the amount of effort and time invested, it is harbors a powerful and only occasional explicit subtext. In other words, we can say that one feel that in their virulent attacks on the mind, souls, and the bodies of women, the Digambas are also perhaps chiefly they are, attempting to undercut the spiritual bona fides of their Svetamba rivals, where there is somewhat, we can say, verging defense of the possibility of the moksha for women. Even we will see that this attitude which expressed in Jain literature and in other Indian traditional texts towards women, it is difficult to believe that these monkish authors on both the side of the issue would have regarded women as sufficiently interesting in sustain or intense debate for many centuries. More likely, this debate is the question of possibility of Sri Moksha was at least to some extent a kind of protracted metaphor for a struggle over spiritual validity of the two parts of Jain mendicancy themselves. So in a way, we can say that the issue and the attitudes about the woman and the gender and related in this text are not intrinsically of interest and even vital to our understanding of the conception of woman and as within quotes, the other in patriarchal society in South Asia and elsewhere. So these attitudes are very close to the heart of the sexism that has served the rationale for the disempowerment of women in all the spheres of life, secular, spiritual, in the society of the ancient East and the modern West. I think this is the reason why that these Jaina debate on the liberation of women deserves to be read not only by the scholars of Eastern religions, but also by thoughtful people in all the areas of scholarship, which includes anthropology, sociology, history, psychology, and women studies. So this is all about the Jain and women fish. Thank you.
थैंक यू सो मच नम्रता जी, आपने आज का ये टॉक सेशन बहुत ही स्ट्रक्चर्ड वे से लिया एंड आई रियली अप्रिशिएट जैन फाउंडेशन के बिहाफ से, पूरी टीम की ओर से आपने वुमेन्स को लेके बहुत सारे डिफरेंट डिफरेंट एंगल को कवर किया, जैसे वुमेन्स एजुकेशन है, उनका सोशल स्टेटस है, लिबरेशन है, ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें आपने कवर की। मैं ये सेशन, अगर आपकी परमिशन है, हमारा समय हो चुका है, पर अगर आपकी परमिशन है तो मैं ये सेशन ओपन भी रखना चाहता हूँ। अगर किसी को कोई प्रश्न पूछना है तो आप हैंड रेज कर सकते हैं। हाँ, एज सच, हाँ, देयर आर क्वेश्चंस।
Hi, I am Aisha Khatun from Jadavpur University. Ma'am, can you please suggest me any Bengali or other any material on this topic? Then
See,
this will be a
regarding
great.
Bengali material, I don't have any knowledge of it because I didn't go through any Bengali material. If there is any translation of these works, I will let you know. Definitely give me a number. I will let you know.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Or are there any material in Hindi or English? Then it
Yeah,
will be
there is
okay.
ample material in Hindi and English. You will ping me anytime. I will give you the all, like on whichever topic you want to discuss with me. And regarding this woman issue, you can first go through the different agamas like Tattavati Sutra of Umaswamy, Acharanga Sutra, and Daswai Kalika Sutra, where you will find many passages regarding a woman, different aspect which cover the different aspects of woman. First, you go through this, or you can do in another way. You can in Jain journal, as you are based in Kolkata. There are one journal known as Jain journal, which will be easily available over here. There you will find different articles on women's issue. If you want, it is an easy way for you to go through those things first, and then you refer to agamas, so that you have a bit knowledge, and then you move forward.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू सो मच। और किसी को कोई प्रश्न है तो आप हैंड रेज कर सकते हैं। ओके, सो नम्रता जी, एज सच कोई प्रश्न नहीं है, बट डेफिनेटली इफ यू परमिट, इफ एनीवन वांट्स टू कनेक्ट विथ यू, आई विल टेक योर परमिशन एंड देन आई विल शेयर योर नंबर, or maybe I will pass on the questions, then you
Okay,
can
sure.
answer and I will pass on to them. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you so much Namrata ji, Jain
Thank
Talks के
you
इस
very
मंच
much
पे
to
आने के
you
लिए।
and
Yes.
all the participants who have patiently hear me. Too many angles. The reason is so that the researchers will come out, because Jain philosophy, Jain religion is so vast, is still unexplored. I want that the women will come up and do the researches on different segments of woman life, and everything is ample examples, stories. Like they can do research, because in Kolkata, actually, what we like I am seeing, there's no such researcher on Jainism. Maybe in Delhi we will find, in Rajasthan we will find, but regarding Jainism in Kolkata, there's hardly any scholar. So
Yeah.
I will definitely like people will come and promote this religion, which is very rich and very scientific.
Ji, thank you so much. With scholars like you, definitely, there will be people interested to research like more on this topic, and definitely they will need your guidance also. So
Sure.
I will connect,
It will be my
2-3 people have requested me. So I will just take your permission and then I'll connect. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
सो इसी के साथ हम आज की स्टॉक सेशन को विराम देते हैं, और विराम देने से पहले जगत के सभी जीवों का कल्याण हो, जगत के सभी जीवों का मंगल हो, जगत के सभी जीव हमारे मित्र हैं, कोई भी हमारा वैरी नहीं, इस भावना के साथ प्रार्थना। अणु परमाणु शिव बनी जाओ, अखा विश्व नु मंगल थाओ, सर्वे जीवो मोक्षे जाओ। खामे मी सब जीवे सब्वे जीवा खमंतु में, मित्ति में सब भुवे सु वैरम मज्जन के नहीं, सर्वथा सौ सुखीता हो, पाप ना कोई आचरो, राग द्वेषति मुक्त बनीने, समता सौ समाचरो। सभी को मेरे प्रणाम। जय जिनेन्द्र।